Welcome back. It's the big segment, the big story segment on the AM show. I took the win out of your still there, but let's get right into it, Brace.
Yeah. So let's talk about scholarships, right? And students from Ghana who are in other countries studying. Now, the Foreign Affairs Ministry says it has established a special department in diplomatic missions abroad to prioritize the needs of Ghanaian students there. Now, by this, student desks have been created in countries that the data shows has high numbers of Ghanaians studying. We take a look at this initiative and what the student associations in the diaspora make of it. Joining us via Zoom, as Sweetie has already introduced, Lord McMensa is the president of Global Union of Ghanaian Scholars. And also Dr. Emmanuel John Ayete is president of Ghanaian Students Association Morocco. Gassam there. Gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Okay.
And thank you very much.
Lord, let me start with you. This creation is something government thinks will help improve the relationship between you and your home country to ensure that you have a place you can go to get information on anything concerning your studies and home as well. What does that come to you, or how does that come to you?
All right, thank you very much. I hope I can be heard.
Perfectly.
So, good morning to all listeners. This is, unfortunately, my president, Mr. Lord, is not on. This is the vice president, Dr. Julius Jah. So it's an honor to have, to be here with you this morning.
Okay.
Yes, so the Global Union of Ghanaian Scholars, that's the umbrella body for the Ghanaian students in the diaspora. The student desk or a student office at the embassies is one thing that we've been asking for over so many years now. And we think that this is a step in the right direction. And so we are very grateful to the Foreign Affairs Ministry and the minister himself for taking this bold initiative to bring the students. Let's look at it, for example. I am the former NUCS China president. At the time I was president, there were about 7,000 students in China, just students, which is way more than workers or any other group, the business community in China. So when you have a body that is responsible for students of this number, then we are taking steps in the right direction. The same could be said before the disturbances in Ukraine and Russia. We have huge number of students, about 2,000 in both countries. So yeah, it's a step in the right direction. And as a Global Union of Ghanaian Scholars, we are so happy to get this news.
Right. You mentioned the war in Ukraine, and we also how Ghanaian students got stranded there, which makes me wonder, is this a proactive approach to solve the problem or a reactive one to solve past problems that we've already had?
Well, it's a difficult situation. I mean, since it's a new government, we would want to look at it in the positive way to say it's proactive. However, the roadmap to how these student desk work will be very important. As we said, the issue in Ukraine, we've had the case of Sudan, and 5 years ago, we had COVID outbreak in China. We saw how our students struggle in all these three situations. What we are looking out for is that, as my colleague, the president in Morocco, is online, we have presidents in all these countries. We are expecting that the student desks will be able to liaise with these students. So that, for instance, what happened in Sudan 2 years ago, if we have a similar situation, the students understand the country better than the embassy officials. You cannot deny that. I have been in China and understand how the system in China works probably better than a lot of the embassy people. So when they liaise with the students, then we'll be able to avoid situations where we get delayed evacuation as we saw in Sudan and then Ukraine.
Okay.
And what would success look like? You said you'd been calling for this for a really long time now. What metrics would you use to judge the effectiveness of these students' desks?
Yes, so the students in diaspora faces a lot of challenges. Major ones are health, issues of their visa. Some have legal challenges here and there. Stipends. There are some students who are on scholarship for probably 9 months, haven't received stipends, 4 years, medical students haven't received book allowances. So we must see results. It's not just creating the desk, but the desk coming in to create results. Students don't have accommodation because they have to use these stipends to pay for their rents. So the students in the diaspora is going through a lot. And I want to say we are not just looking at scholarship students, but Ghanaian students all around. It's estimated that our membership across some countries are over 30,000. That tells you the number. And that's just some countries. not all, because we do not have coverage for all the countries. So we want to see results being achieved. We want to see the stipends of students paid. We want to see a policy for health for the students in diaspora. I'll give you an example. In China, you have an insurance. But when a student gets sick or involved in an accident, and for instance, the student has to pay a $5,000 treatment plan, you have to make that payment, and after treatment, the insurance pays. So somebody gets sick, probably an accident, a fracture playing football, and he has to pay $5,000. And a surgery must be performed in 24 hours. That is basically impossible for a student to raise at that time. So the embassies, the student desks must come up with a way where the challenges that we have faced are achieved. That is the only way we can say it's successful. We want to see our health care improve. We want to see our stipends, our tuition fees, and so many other challenges that we face addressed.
Have you been educated on the workings of these desks?
Yeah, so we are still in touch with the foreign ministry. Of course, we understand that the minister is settling in, and we always get right to them and get correspondence from them. So we have already reached out to them, and hopefully we'll be discussing how this student desk operates.
Yeah. I'm asking because of what you said, that a student can get injured and a surgery would have to be performed, $5,000 and all of that. And once you said it's something you've been calling for, I was thinking you were part of the process to then develop this, such that whether or not the desk will be able to sponsor or pay $5,000 for a student to undergo surgery is one of the things the desk will be looking at, and that's why I was asking whether or not you are aware.
Yes, we have had recommendations to the former government and former ministers. We do not know how well. We know that the ministry is always running. The directors and co are always running. So we've had proposals to them on how to handle this issue. Truth is, we do not know how much of it is integrated into the current proposal from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So I guess over the next few weeks, the picture will be clearer to us all.
Okay. Let's take you to Morocco, because Morocco is one area where, in time past, recent time past, they used to have some peculiar challenges, Thank you so much, Doc, for joining us here. How does this news come to you, students, in Morocco especially?
All right, thank you so much. For Morocco, I think as Dr. Julius said, the students are happy about it because you would bear witness, as you said, previously we had about a year without being paid. And so what I want to say is sometimes, the government, overlook the diaspora students, which is very, very sad, especially when the status of the scholarship was to benefit needy students, brilliant but needy students. And so if we have the ideology that the students can be helped by the parents, at least, if you have like a year, how would the student be able to pay rent? How would the students be able to, as Dr. Julius said, we have a student currently struggling with a medical condition, and we, the students, have to contribute, in order to help her cater for this chronic disease. I think it's kidney chronic disease. I wouldn't be able to give details, but then we have not been paid for over 10 to 11 months. So how do the students come up with money to save such a student in that situation? And so I believe that if we have these desks being, set up in these vantage places, it's going to really, really help to discuss personal matters. Because as Dr. Julius says, some of the embassy officials might not really understand perfectly what the students are going through. And so if we have a desk being created, I don't know if the desk is going to be a part of a forum from the consular office, or is going to be a separate desk being initiated. But I believe it is a separate desk being initiated is going to really help a lot, as we would be able to communicate personal issues, on the ground. Example, in recent times, we had some earthquakes that is happening in Morocco, And I believe that if we have a student desk being created over there, there will be constant checkup, or if a student undergo any disaster, there would be that kind of relief from that desk. So
Emmanuel, I want to understand what you're saying, so please indulge me here. You just spoke about some emergencies. In fact, in 2023, we heard reports about how there were delays in processing documentation during emergencies. I think the earthquake was one of those emergencies. How did you handle that situation? And to the best of your knowledge, how will this desk sort or resolve these administrative bottlenecks?
All right. Thank you so much. We do not pray for a disaster to happen, but we see these disasters happening, and fortunately for Ghanaian students, we have not been affected yet. And so most of the times what I see is we wait for situations to happen, then we find solutions. But if there is this desk being created, the person is absolutely directed to students. And so when a student is being affected, there is immediate, resolution. An example is when a student, we have a scholarship that promises just about $320 for health in general. But as Dr. Julius said, you realize that these insurances, you would have to cater for yourself first before the refund will be made. Some of them is 80% refund or 90% refund. But then at the end of the day, you would have to resolve it first at your side. And so let's say in a time where you have not been paid for 10 months stipends, how would you resolve if these disasters, let's say there's earthquake, and then let's say you are being affected, your house is being affected. If there is no this kind of desk being created so that the diplomat personnel can relate directly with this desk, how will the student be able to resolve these issues immediately? Because for now, what goes on at the embassy is if a student undergo any calamity, there would have to be a letter. If the student is about to die, there would have to be a letter that will be sent to the embassy from the student leadership. Then now from the embassy to the scholarship secretariat, then we wait for answer before it is a whole lot of a long process. If the students have to die, the student will die. And so it is better we have people that are able to deal directly with the students so that things can move smoothly at the side of it. Because we are actually students, we have a lot of students in Morocco, different type, undergraduate, postgraduate, masters, diploma, and currently there are other initiatives, I don't know if you are going to ask about it, that is going on, that is really affecting the mind of the students in Morocco, and then the standard of living of the students in Morocco. But I hope...
So tell us about it before we move on. What exactly is happening?
All right, thank you. In as much as we have not been paid for about 10 months now, we have students that have not been paid for 2 years. Now, this could be said because our scholarship, puts some students off from poor academic performances, which sometimes these poor academic performances might not be related as poor academic performance, even though they are related. Example, when the student is not being paid for 10 months or 1 year, there are certain artifacts that is needed to write examinations. Medical students, there are certain stages you have to do. You have to take transport. You have to, there are sometimes you have to even pay the patient's bills. There are certain movements you have to do. So if you're not able to do all these movements, it contributes to you failing that particular year. Yes, though, you are going to be penalized for failing that particular year, which I believe is not fair. Example is we have people that are doing thesis. In your thesis, your project, we call it fin d'étude in French, meaning that your final project, we have people that are stuck in their final project. Yes, though, after a year, they are going to be taken off from this particular scholarship. So if the money is not coming, how did the person go on to do the thesis? How did the person go on to do his or her project? Another thing is, currently, medical students are struggling. Currently, medical students in their final year are struggling very much to receive the stipends during their final project. Because they said in the final project you are supposed to be done, but that is not the case. These students go for 7 years, and then you have 6 months to write your thesis. And so if they are being stripped off, they have to write a letter, wait for the letter to come before they will now start the process. This is a long process that, put the student, rather than 6 months, in a year or even 1.5 years, just for something that could have been resolved if we have these personal encounters with these decks.
Okay, so if I understand you, the stipends have not come for more than a year for some people.
Yeah, close to 2 years.
From the scholarship secretariat?
Yes.
Okay. And as you say, some people were taking off for academic performances. Have you verified whether these people are part of them or not?
Yes, they are actually part of them, and that was why I explained from the initial point of view that sometimes it is not their fault. We may have 1 or 2 individuals who fail to study. Yes, that could be the fact. But then we have students that currently was actually not the fault from their side.
Okay.
Because they lack the money
Okay.
to,
Okay. I get you. But have you tried to find out from the foreign affairs or the embassies what the modalities of this student desk will be? Because you're talking about someone who can liaise directly with a student. Have you found out the modalities on how these desks will operate?
Yes, currently we do not have much information in that, but then from the statement from Honorable Samuel, we would realize that this is supposed to be a separate desk or something that should help the students because it's a student desk.
Yeah, actually, let me just read this to you in a bit. I don't want to read the whole thing. I want to give you some specific details. He says the creation of this special department, one, would not come at an extra cost to the Ghanaian taxpayer, neither would it require additional recruitment since the initiative relies on reassigning consular staff. So which means that it's the same mission in Morocco or these other 11 countries where these students' desks are going to be set up. And you believe that somehow that makes a difference in terms of meeting you at the point of your needs, although you don't have enough information in terms of the modalities of this?
Yeah, I believe before an initiation is going to be done, there's supposed to be an advantage or there's supposed to be a reason to which it is being done. Probably maybe at first it could have been part of the consulate's office, but then it might have not been hinted upon. But now that it's being hinted upon, I believe that there would be a separate eye or a separate focus on the students in particular. So it might not necessarily be like before, unless maybe this was just a political statement. But if it is something that is to help the student's body, I believe that it is going to give a separate eye to the students.
For the benefit of our audience, let me just read the entire statement from Samuel Okudzeto Ablako. And he says, I'm delighted to announce that on my instructions, Ghana's Foreign Ministry has established a special department in our diplomatic missions abroad to prioritize and cater for the needs of students. Student desks have been immediately created in 11 countries where data confirms a high number of Ghanaian students currently studying in those countries. Diplomatic missions where these students' desks have been created are Abidjan, Beijing, Belgrade, Cotonou, Havana, Lomé, London, Moscow, Rabat, Rome, and Ottawa. Now, this initiative will soon cover all diplomatic missions following this pilot phase. So this is the pilot phase. And it goes on to say the creation of this special department would not come at an extra cost to the Ghanaian taxpayer. Neither would it require additional recruitment since the initiative relies on reassigning consular staff. The embassy officials responsible for this new role are to send monthly reports to the Consular and Humanitarian Affairs Bureau for onward transmission to the Foreign Minister. And now the Mahama administration is determined to end the era where Ghanaian students studying abroad, particularly those on government scholarships, are left stranded, neglected, and frustrated when they need urgent assistance in areas such as fees facilitation, immigration support, medical emergencies, verification of academic records, housing and accommodation support, evacuation, and legal aid. I think what's the only thing left out is, are they going to be helping with mental health issues as well? I see you smiling there, Emmanuel. Is that not important?
I believe if you said aid could be in several ways, which includes mental aid also.
Right. Well, let me throw the same question to Dr. Ja. Dr. Ja, what do you make of this? So this new desk that are being created come at no extra cost. You're not getting any extra money. They're not bringing you any new stuff, no new hands on desk. It's the same group of people, the same mission in these countries that are going to be sort of liaising with the students there. Only this time there's a dedicated desk where it looks like they can go to if they need anything. How is this inspiring confidence in you that it meets you at the point of your need?
Thank you very much. So previously, or what we currently have on the ground is that those even in charge of education, for instance, they have other multilateral responsibility, the consulates. So you could see some of them are also in charge of something like the consular services. Some are in charge of other functions. This means that you could actually want to reach out to them in an emergency, and the person is sometimes even out of country. For instance, in China, where the person is responsible for other nearby countries, he or she could be out of the country at that time. But in this case, now we have somebody solely in charge of the students in diaspora, which means that 24/7, that person has to be there with the leadership of the students in China. And it's positive. Now, there's another aspect of this whole thing that people aren't getting. The benefit is not just to the students. I can tell you that over the past few years, we've had the best graduating students from medical specializations in Cuba, from UK, from China, wonderful students all coming from diaspora. We've had some very good thesis and research work done by our students. This all ends after their graduation. There is no structure where these studies that they've done is brought into the country to help develop the country. So this desk goes beyond even the welfare. We are looking at a picture bigger than just the welfare of the students, to how these students contribute to the development of the country with the academic expertise that they are getting abroad. About 6-7 years ago, somewhere 2018, we had the Medical and Dental Council come to China, I remember, to look at the medical schools training medical doctors. It's something they are supposed to be doing openly to all the other countries. And the fact is we have more medical doctors trained abroad than we train in Ghana. So it tells you that, as we said, there has to be a proper coordination so that our students that are trained, they have the best academic training, and also they're able to bring their expertise on board in Ghana. So we are looking at a whole bigger picture. And so it's good to know that somebody there would be dedicated to the welfare of just students. And as I said, most of our countries, the student population are even bigger than the residents or those who are working there. So I think it's a step in the right direction.
So how involved are these student union groups in shaping this policy and initiative? How involved are you?
Yeah, so in my earlier presentation, I already said that we have several times contacted the ministry, of course, especially during the displacement of students in Sudan, in Ukraine, and then the COVID outbreak. We've been in negotiation with them. The truth of the matter is that it's difficult. It's been difficult. We have a welfare policy, a document which we're planning to submit to Parliament, which also includes some of these developments that we are seeing. And hopefully, there will be more engagement between the ministry and the students so that we can have a long-lasting solution to these problems that we've had for decades.
Well, thank you so much. Kojo?
No, I'm
well, thank you so much, Dr. Julius Komla-Jah. That's Vice President of
the Ghana
Global Union of Ghanaian Scholars. We're also joined by Dr. Emmanuel John Aite, President of Ghanaian Student Association in Morocco. And we're talking about the scholarship or Ghanaian students studying abroad who are getting a student desk in the various missions in their various countries. And the Foreign Affairs Ministry is saying that this will meet them at the point of their needs because the Mahama administration is committed to changing the narrative. When we saw students stranded, Kojo, in Morocco, in so many countries where...
In Ukraine
especially.
Yeah, when the war broke. We know that they included Moscow because there are a lot of Ghanaian students in Russia. I have a friend who joined last year. So it's good that we're having this for them to then deal with deepen the relationship between their motherland and where they are. I mean, it's always good to know that there's someone where you are that you can fall on in times of need. So,
but we need more details.
Oh, exactly.
We need a fine print. We need to really understand. They say the devil is in the details.
Yes.
Because for me, I want to focus on the fact that they're saying this comes with no money, no extra money, no extra hands, on desk. It's the same mission. They're going to be reassigning. So exactly what is going to be done?
I agree with them that it won't involve extra hands.
Yeah.
But like the students are saying, that person should be dedicated solely to handling the students. Or that office. It shouldn't be even a person, because a person can travel. But when it's an office, once one leaves, there's another person there to deal with the issues there. But the students are also looking at their office, or the office helping them with medical care and what have you. How are we going to fund that? Is it going to be from Ghana providing a special fund, or the unions would have to provide, out of their dues, make something available, to the desk? Because the unions or the student, I'm sure, pay dues. If you belong to any association, you pay yearly or monthly dues. Is that what they're going to make part to the desk, or Ghana is going to make some monies available? Because as you said, $5,000 you had there, $5,000 for a surgery. The student cannot get it. So they believe that the desk will make it available to them. So will the desk make some funds available that the student can fall on in times of emergency and in medical cases where they can't? The Morocco guy said they are helping someone with a kidney issue. They cannot as students, because some are still being owed stipends for 2 years. Where are they going to pay? So we should be educated on whether some fund is going to be attached to that desk for them to use in helping students when the time being. But
I'm curious
when the time comes. But also interesting is how they could then make their researches available from their country of study to Ghana.
I'm curious to hear what our audience have to say about this, because we'll take a quick break, and when we return, we open the phone lines, and then you can call us and share your thoughts on the Have Your Say segment. And whether or not, Kojo, on a lighter note, this will encourage people to japa. We'll take a quick break and return, and then you get to have your say on the AM show. We'll be right back.